it doesn't happen often that I have over 1,000 future-focused leaders in the audience. And future is a theme that is close to my heart, because I spent quite a bit of time thinking about the future, and especially how we can use technology to create a better world. And I could talk to you about the latest developments in AI or quantum computing, but I chose a more practical angle for this morning. Helping you find answers to questions like, why is technological innovation so incredibly hard? Why is my organization moving so slow? And what can I do to future-proof my business? And for me, future-focused leadership is about the capability of developing a long-term vision on building a profitable business that really contributes to a better world. And we need that because we live in unusual times facing huge societal problems and challenges. Climate change, pollution, an unaffordable healthcare system, food insecurities, and the list goes on. We need technology and innovation to address these challenges. The irony of the story is that many of today's problems actually have been caused by our technological inventions of the past. But I'm hopeful that we could do a better job this time. And we need solutions, and we need them fast. And even though technology develops at lightning speed, it is not technology that determines the speed of change. That is people. It is about politicians, legislators, end users, and especially businesses embracing new technologies. Because it's businesses that turn technology into innovations and bring them to market. And unfortunately, this is a very slow process in most organizations. And if we look at existing organizations, what slows them down in terms of technological innovation, it's 3 key elements. Firstly, it's organizational silos. What do? We split an organization up in business units and product lines. Everybody's focusing on their own KPIs and nobody's looking at the bigger picture. The more radical innovations usually cut across those silos with costs and benefits at different parts of the organization, and therefore they almost have no chance of survival. Secondly, legacy IT systems and working processes. You know, our billing system can't handle it. It's incompatible with our CRM software, or simply it doesn't fit with how we do things here. And thirdly, the human factors. And this is the most intangible one. So I want to zoom in a bit on that, because as a leader, you need to understand human behavior. It's very important. And my interest in the psychology behind technology adoption and resistance first got triggered about 6 years ago when I, as a technology optimist, for the very first time experienced resistance in myself. Let me give you a little bit of context. I have multiple roles in life. In one of those roles, I'm also just a mom of 2 boys, Ramsey and Jordan. And Jordan is this boy with an exceptional talent for anything digital. As a baby, he became wild when he saw an iPhone. At the age of 2, he knew how to switch Wi-Fi networks if he had a bad connection. And at the age of 3, he knew what he wanted to become in life, a YouTube star. Now, if you have children, you might recognize this. First take your picture with mommy, then you'll get your ice cream. But in any other situation, it looked like this. Game consoles, headsets, extra batteries, iPads, you name it, and I had it with me. And even though I facilitated this as a mom, I was also deeply worried. Because I also read the newspapers telling me that the entire generation will need glasses soon. I also worry if some of the games are not too violent and what it does to the development of his brain. And how about his social skills? Does he have enough friends? So as a mom, I want to limit his screen time and force him to play outside as I did as a little kid. But I also have another role in life, as I'm here today. I speak about technology and innovation. As a professor at the Delft University of Technology, I focus on applying technology for good, and I work with corporates and startups to speed up innovation, focusing on technology's benefits. And if I look at Jordan as an innovation professional, I see something very different. I see a very talented boy that can do things his peers cannot, and I feel I should stimulate that, the development of his social skills, and I should facilitate him to become whoever he wants to be. And that's the moment in time that I realized this is rather strange. I'm one person, I'm looking at one boy. I look from two different perspectives and I see two entirely different things. How does that work? How do we respond to the arrival of new technologies? So I deep dived literature and I found that we use recurring arguments over and over again to explain why technology is really bad for us. Let's look at the information and media sector in a historical perspective. And we're going to start a very long time ago with the invention of writing, the technology of the moment. And Greek philosophers argued that writing would be very bad for us. It would instill forgetfulness in our brains, because if we would write everything down, we don't have to remember things. If you don't have to remember things, at some point in time, you can no longer remember things. Fast forward to the 16th century, information overload. It's not about the internet, it was about a printing press. There would be too many books. Our brains would not be able to deal with it. And most importantly, if you could rely on the book to find the information, you don't really need deep knowledge. You don't need to understand it to transfer the knowledge to somebody else, so our knowledge would become more superficial. Newspapers would put people in social isolation because news was a social process. People came together in the newspit to exchange the latest information. But with a newspaper, people would withdraw in their home to learn about the news. Bad for the development of your social skills, bad for integration in society. At some point in time, reading and writing had become essential skills to function in society. And schools popped up. And parents violently opposed it, because it would put too much stress on the brains of children, a burnout, but it would also be really, really bad for their health to lock them up in classrooms all day. The phone, at the time wired, was an invasion of our privacy. The TV generation would never learn how to read or write. And when the internet arrived, we saw the most bizarre headlines. The internet was bad for everything. And there was one article from Mr. Carr going viral saying, "Is Google making us stupid?" Arguing that if we can find everything on Google, we don't really have to learn and remember things, and at some point we would become forgetful, and most importantly, we would jump from article to article to article, and our knowledge would become more superficial. Basically the same arguments we've heard in the past. Now the arguments might be true, but what's interesting here is that we tend to put the spotlight on the possible negative effects of new technologies and not on their benefits, who also exist. And this is because we tend to look at what we have, what we understand, what we value, what we're used to, and then compare what we have to the new thing and focus on what we tend to lose. We're more focused on protecting what we have than gaining something new. Let me illustrate. Most people who grew up in the Western world, my age, enjoyed playing with Lego as a kid. And if you have fond memories of playing with Lego, and you ask them, what would you rather see, that your children or grandchildren play with Lego for an afternoon, or on an iPad Minecraft? Most people choose Lego. Why? We tend to choose what we understand and what we like, and most people immediately point out what you lose when you move to the digital world. Eye-hand coordination, 3D insight. You get another form of eye-hand coordination and 3D insight in return, but we're not familiar with that and tend to judge that as less valuable. And most people don't really know what Minecraft is. Essentially, it's a digital Lego. You can mine all sorts of materials and then build, craft any object you like. And because it's a digital world, possibilities are endless. This is one of Jordan's many creations who never showed an interest in Lego. If you make a rational comparison, Minecraft comes out really well. Nevertheless, we stick to our preference of Lego. And if you didn't grow up with the digital games, we're often prejudiced. You know, it's bad for your eyes, it's bad for your brain, and worst of all, you can get addicted, and that will put you in social isolation. Now, Stephen Johnson came up with a brilliant thought experiment saying, what if books were invented after video games? So try to imagine for a moment, books do not exist. There are no books, no newspapers, you do not read, but you do play video games every day, multiple times a day, and it's a normal thing to do. And all of a sudden, books are invented. And kids love them and they start reading like crazy. What would we say? It's very likely that we would say, that's bad for your brain. Because a game, it's a rich multimedia experience triggering all parts of your brain. But a book is just words on a page. It's bad for personal development and creativity, because in a game you learn how to explore and about leadership, and in a book there's no other option than following the plot. And last but not least, it will put you in social isolation. Because in a game, you play with others, whether they're next to you or on the other side of the world, it doesn't matter. But with a book, a kid would withdraw in their room by themselves for hours and hours. And this perfectly explains how your frame of reference completely defines what you see. And that frame of reference might vary depending on where and when you were born. And Douglas Adams, the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, summed it up in an interesting way. He said, everything that was there when you were born is a normal part of the world. We don't see it as anything new. Anything invented between 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary, and you can probably get a career out of it. Anything over 35 is against the natural order of things. And it's not this black and white, obviously. It could be 45, it could be 65, and there are some young people who are less open-minded towards technology than older people, but there is some logic to it. If I look at electric cars, I get excited. I think it's a beautiful piece of technology. My kids shrug their shoulders and go like, yes, some cars have a power plug and others don't. Big deal. Because that's what their world looks like. So what happens here is that our frame of reference shapes our attitude towards new technologies. And in 2011, this was the general opinion about electric cars. It's extraordinarily bad idea, waste of space. And at the time, Tesla was already selling their Roadster and was about to launch their Model S. In 2006, they published their vision, saying that their purpose was to move the world to a sustainable energy economy. And critical to making that happen is to build an electric car without compromise. And the large car manufacturers laughed at them. A young tech entrepreneur coming up with a vision to change the world, who never built a car and who would make a product that was inferior to combustion engine cars. That would never, ever happen. Nevertheless, Tesla changed the rules of the game at unprecedented speed. And only 8 years later, we've all embraced electric cars, and every manufacturer was being compared to Tesla, who was way ahead of the pack. And these game changers, they changed the rule of the game, so I call them game changers. If you look at them, essentially they're tech companies. And every sector has them. They're tech companies who just happen to be in automotive, construction, finance, you name it. And they're new organizations who are not hindered by the things that slow down the large corporations. Because the organizational silos, they design their organization in a way that it serves their purpose. And they're still small and flexible to do that. They are not bothered by legacy systems because they can design their IT systems and working processes from the ground up. And last but not least, there very little human resistance in there against new technologies and change, because making change happen is in the organization's purpose. And they only attract employees that want to contribute to that also want to make change happen. So in their DNA, they are very different companies. Now, mind you, this is a temporary head start. Over time, they will have the same problem. So interestingly enough, I was surprised to find a Lucid car at the entrance here, because one of the Model S lead engineers left Tesla because he was frustrated that he couldn't do what he wanted to do, so he left and founded his own electric car company. Now, not everybody can be a game changer. That's clear. So what if you work in an existing organization? What can you do? There are 3 innovation strategies to increase your innovation power. And I'll use Volvo as an example to illustrate this. Now, Volvo is a traditional corporate, right? And they were really late to the party. They have always been about safety, not sustainability. But once they realized the need for sustainable transport, and they understood that the future would be electric, they fully embraced it and made it their mission to to change the entire organization and to transform themselves. So in 2017, they announced, we are determined to be the first premium car manufacturer to move our entire portfolio of vehicles into electrification. From 2019 onwards, every new Volvo would have an electric motor, mostly hybrid, but okay, it's a good start. By 2025, 50% of cars will be hybrid and 50% will be full electric, and by 2030, full electric 100%. Now, it doesn't maybe sound too ambitious, but if you have to transform an old organization, this is a huge endeavor. And to make their vision a reality, they implemented the 3 innovation strategies that you can follow. And the first one is to work with startups. They, together with 6 other corporates, they started a startup accelerator, giving them first-hand access to innovative startups, allowing them to cherry pick, to either acquire the company, become a launching customer, or become a strategic investor. The investments they do with a newly started investment fund, fully focused on startups in sustainability, digitization, autonomous driving, and electrification. And some of the startups come out of the accelerator, some do not. And their latest big investment is StoreDot, a startup focusing on extreme fast charging, giving you over 160 kilometers in only 5 minutes. Now, this is an innovation strategy to get the innovation power from the outside in. The second innovation strategy is to transform yourself from the inside out and increase your own innovation power, to reinvent yourself. And they did this to start an agile transformation. And they understood that in the past, they made physical cars and then put some software in it. But as cars would become electric, they would become computers on wheels. And you need an integrated way to develop hardware and software. So they had top management support and leadership. They invested over 150,000 man-hours in training to transform their entire way of working. And their first full electric car came out in 2020, the XC40, mind you, 8 years after the launch of the Model S. That's pretty late. And the second model came out a year later. Now, this might appeal to Volvo drivers, but for me, it's just a Volvo with an electric car and some added features. If you really want to do radical innovation and reinvent the customer experience, it's almost impossible from the inside out. So they also implemented the third innovation strategy, that is to build a new company. And Lynk & Co is an example of it. Technically, it's nothing new. The cars built on the same platform that the Volvo cars use. The innovation is in the business model. It's a monthly subscription-based car that you can easily share with the Lynk & Co community. They did the same thing with Polestar. And in both cases, they did it in a joint venture with Geely, which is their Chinese mother. And this is about creating something new, not trying to do it inside, but a new team, a new company, a new brand, and an entire new value proposition. And Volvo's strength was in having a clear vision that everybody understood, and then implementing all 3 innovation strategies. You don't have to do all 3, but it is good to realize that the 3 give you results on different levels. Working with startups usually results in new product features. Reinventing yourself will lead to taking your existing product portfolio to the next level. And building a new company will lead to entirely new value propositions. And these strategies will help you build a future-proof business in a world where technology disrupts and change accelerates and societal challenges force us to rethink the playing field. So my question to you would be, what is your game plan? What is your long-term vision for building a profitable business that also makes a positive impact on society and our world? Because if you have this long-term vision, you are equipped to innovate your business and shape the future. Thank you very much.